13 people are dead after a van drove into a crowd of pedestrians in a tourist area of Barcelona, Spain. Talks to renegotiate a deal that stuck customers with billions of dollars of cost to shut down San Onofre have broken down. The next stop may be court. Chula Vista schools have made big strides in helping their students eat better and lose weight. Can chocolate milk sour their progress? KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. 2 people have been arrested in Spain after a van slammed into a crowd of pedestrians in Barcelona, killing 13. It happened in a busy tourist area. Police say the van jumped the curb and plowed through the crowd. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack. Spanish police say neither of the people they've arrested was the driver. That person is still at large. Hundreds of people turned out for an impromptu vigil in Charlottesville, Virginia last night. This happened at the University of Virginia, in the same place where hundreds of torch-carrying white nationalists marched on Friday night. Last night's crowd sang spirituals and observed a moment of silence for the 3 people who died Saturday. Last weekend's violence prompted a number of cities to remove Confederate symbols, including right here in San Diego, where a plaque was removed from Horton Plaza Park. Today, President Trump condemned those removals on Twitter, saying it was a removal of history and asking what would be taken down next. PBS NewsHour will have more on these stories coming up at 7. North County Congressman Darrell Issa wants a congressional hearing on white supremacist groups. The Republican says he wants to know their impact on civil rights in America. In a letter to the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, he says last weekend's rally in Charlottesville was a despicable display of bigotry and evil. He says we have a duty to understand what led to these events and the persistence of extremist ideologies. Talks to renegotiate a deal that stuck customers with billions of dollars of cost to shut down San Onofre have broken down. The next stop may be court. KPBS investigative reporter Amita Sharma has the story.
Southern California Edison told state regulators this week that attempts to renegotiate a settlement over San Onofre broke down. The terms of the original deal left customers with a $3.3 billion bill, even though the shuttered plant is no longer producing electricity. Consumer lawyer Mike Aguirre says he's asked the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to order the case be heard before a federal judge in San Diego. Aguirre says if that happens, he plans to question Edison executives and state regulators under oath and pursue documents. He argues the evidence will show Edison knew its equipment was faulty before it was installed and sprung a radioactive leak at San Onofre. And he believes records will also show that state officials, instead of holding Edison accountable, helped stick ratepayers with a multi-billion-dollar tab.
Once your child is caught with his hand in the cookie jar, he's got to let loose of the cookies. And that's the problem with Edison. We caught their hand in the cookie jar, and it's $4 billion, and they don't want to let loose. And somebody big, somebody powerful, like the federal government, the law has to step forward and tell them let loose of those cookies.
Edison declined an interview request, saying it does not comment on litigation. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
The Navy says the commanding officer for the USS Fitzgerald will be relieved of command 2 months after a collision killed 7 sailors. The Fitzgerald collided with a container ship off Japan in June. The Navy is still investigating what happened, but in the meantime, the ship's top 3 officers and several other sailors face punishment. California's violent crime rate rose last year. A new report from the state attorney general says the violent crime rate went up just over 4%, but property crime went down by nearly 3%. A San Diego County judge gets a serious penalty. A state commission has filed a severe public censure against Judge Gary Creep. Today's action is just a step below removal from office. The censure notice cites 29 acts of judicial misconduct, including courtroom comments reflecting bias, being hostile to the city attorney's office, running his courtroom in an undignified manner, and comments on the attractiveness of female public defenders. Before his election in 2012, Creep was known for promoting the false idea that Barack Obama was not born in the U.S. The commission notes that most of the misconduct happened during his campaign or his first year in office. Since then, they say he's made efforts to reform, and they say that's why he was not removed from the bench. LGBT advocates are calling for more representation in California textbooks. Today, the California Instructional Quality Commission held a public hearing at the state capitol to get input on what changes publishers may need to make in public school books. Advocates for the LGBT community showed up in force to ask for more positive presence, especially in history books. They say people in the LGBT community are misunderstood, which often leads to bullying.
Many figures that we know very well, like Sally Ride, Charlie Parkhurst, Bayard Rustin, have either not been mentioned or their gender, sexuality, or their romantic interests haven't been mentioned. Over and over again, we've been told about things like presidents' wives, inventors' spouses, etc., and so on. It makes a difference about who we are, where we come from, and the perspective that we bring to history.
My name is Craig Gibbons.
After hearing public comments, the commission will decide which changes to make in September. Then it's up to the State Department of Education to adopt those recommendations. It's back to school for San Diego County's students this month. In Chula Vista, it's also back to school for chocolate milk. The Chula Vista Elementary School District Board of Education has voted to lift a 5-year-old ban on the beverage. KPBS education reporter Megan Burke says the decision has left a bad taste in the mouths of some parents and health professionals.
Set, go. In 2010, the Chula Vista Elementary School District measured the height and weight of all of its students. What it found was alarming. By the 6th grade, more than half of its students were overweight, a quarter were obese. The district mobilized and in 2011 drafted a comprehensive wellness policy. Here's Superintendent Francisco Escobedo that year.
Typically, when you have systemic change, it takes 5 to 10 years. And we're trying to accelerate that change because we're talking about the lives of kids.
When KPBS checked in 2 years later,
look what happened in 2 years in Chula Vista.
Escobedo points to a map showing a 3% overall drop in the number of kids who were overweight. Today, 4 years later, the map looks even better.
We have no more red. The last school that was in red is no longer in red. That's a tremendous triumph.
That success is a result of several factors. The district banned cupcakes and pizza parties, moved away from unhealthy food sales as fundraisers, and emphasized physical education. It also took chocolate milk off of its cafeteria menus. Its policies have been held up as a national model. It's won awards and cash prizes for its work. So some were dismayed earlier this month when the board revised its policy.
So the policy has been amended to allow chocolate milk.
The board members say the chocolate milk ban has resulted in too much waste, too many kids throwing away plain milk and all of its healthy nutrients. The district's nutrition director told them milk consumption had dropped by 60%.
Waste is another issue, and I feel like that's a whole nother topic to discuss.
Shayla Serpis is a doctor with Scripps Health and helped implement the pilot for Chula Vista's wellness initiative. She disagrees with the board's decision.
My answer to the chocolate milk dilemma is it's one piece, and it's an important piece, and it's symbolic, and it's part of our messaging.
Chocolate milk has about 7 calories more than regular 1% milk. Its sugar content is comparable to a half a cup of peaches in syrup.
The American Heart Association doesn't recommend that children consume more than 5 teaspoons, of sugar. And so if you look at what's in chocolate milk, you're right. That isolated is perhaps 8 grams, depending on the portion size. If you look on a daily basis, it's not that much. but you have to think of all the other sugar that they're consuming in the day.
Yudmila Guicar has a 9-year-old son in the district. She's also concerned. For her, it's about preserving a new culture around health in Chula Vista.
They need to support us because if we are making changes, they need to help us as well.
Guicar says the district's nutrition education inspired her son to become a vegetarian at age 5.
He decided not to eat no more meat, and he wanted more vegetables, more fruits, not even with ranch. He would just eat them raw and healthier, and he says, I want this because my body needs it, because I need it, and because I made a choice.
That's why she isn't worried about her son picking up a carton of chocolate milk.
He knows, he's educated about it, and he makes good decisions. But other kids, I'm not sure.
Lucky for worried parents and health workers, the district's policy still includes BMI testing every 2 years. The next is scheduled for the fall of 2018. That's a year's worth of data to help make the case for or against chocolate milk. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
Budget experts say more than a quarter of California seniors can't afford enough food. And they say the situation could become more dire if Congress moves forward with a plan to cut spending on a federal food assistance program. The proposal would cut funding for CalFresh by nearly $150 billion over the next 10 years. CalFresh serves about 4 million people, and the state has been trying to get more elderly to sign up.
Our housing costs are very high, and medical expenses are especially high for seniors. They tend to have higher health care costs, and that cuts into their income, and it leaves little room for their ability to spend on food. And so we often find that seniors have to make really difficult choices between paying for a prescription or putting enough food on the table.
Congress is expected to decide on possible cuts by October. For patients facing the end of life and for their families, how to select a hospice can be challenging. Now, a new national scorecard shows which hospices do a better job at easing the process of death and those that need to improve. Here's iNews Source reporter Cheryl Clark with more.
For years, people have been able to check out how hospitals and nursing homes rank when it comes to patient care. And this week, Medicare rolled out a new website that rates hospices. It's called hospicecompare.gov, and it scores nearly 4,000 providers on 7 measures. iNewsSource developed a searchable database showing San Diego County hospices, which are rated on various services, including screening for a patient's pain and treatment for those with shortness of breath. Many of the county's hospices earned high scores. For KPBS, I'm iNews Source reporter Cheryl Clark.
Thanks to advancements in military medicine, rehabilitation, and technology, thousands of military service members who were severely wounded in wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are not only surviving their injuries, but they're returning home to live the lives they wanted to live. In this clip from the PBS documentary, Military Medicine Beyond the Battlefield, we meet retired Army Sergeant First Class Raymond Padilla. He's turned his injury into a cutting-edge continuation of his service.
Ramon Padilla is a father and husband, a retired Army Sergeant First Class who served 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he is the second person in the United States to have this prosthetic arm. The arm's technology is the first to use implanted sensors to transmit signals to the robotic hand, and its thumb moves, unlike Padilla's older prosthetics.
Before with this hand, I would have to move my thumb over and close it and grip it. Now with this one, I don't have to move my thumb over. I could just power it over and just close it.
It's been 9 years since Padilla lost his arm, and more than 16 years since he volunteered to join the Army.
I was born in Mexico, and I got to the States when I was 2 years old. So I grew up in Southern California, about 13 miles east of downtown LA. I had 2 daughters at an early age, had my high school diploma, and something just clicked where it's like, okay, I need to give back, I need to do something. My family has taken advantage of everything the States has given to us, and I just felt I had to give back.
In May of 2007, Padilla was a staff sergeant with the 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team. He'd already done a tour in Iraq and served 7 years in the Army when he was sent to Afghanistan's Korangal Valley.
Well, it was July 8th of 2007. We just had gotten back from patrol. Every time I came out of that hooch, I look up to the mountains. And I looked up at some area that was known for the enemy to be there all the time. I mean, every time I pass through there, I look. Well, that one time I didn't look. Half second later, RPG blows up next to me, shrapnel severs my arm. I got shot on the right side of the head. You know, the only time I don't look is where they fire from. Losing my arm was the least on my mind. Getting shot on the right side of the head was the least on my mind. What I cared about the most is the safety of the warriors that were there with me.
Under fire, his team got Padilla out of the valley. Just 6 days later, Padilla was on a critical care air transport flight from Germany to the Walter Reed Army Medical Center, where his recovery began with a question for his occupational therapist.
The first thing I asked him, look, I want to learn how to play catch with my kid, because I have a lot of fond memories of me and my dad playing catch and teaching me how to play baseball and stuff like that. Those were a lot of special moments in my life where I do remember, and I wanted to give that to my kids. Having one arm, I had no idea. How the heck am I supposed to do this? And he tells me, we will get you to catch with your kids.
What Padilla and many young wounded warriors wanted was for medical technology to catch up with them. Padilla now uses a modified lacrosse stick to play catch with his son, and a metal grip for golf. But it started out slowly.
Well, my first hand was my dummy hand, what I call my dummy hand. So it does not move, it does not do anything. It's just a passive hand you put on. Well, what I wanted was Luke Skywalker Star Wars hand, of course. And then later I wanted the iRobot Will Smith hand. And those are the two hands I really wanted. And because you're like, oh my God, this is in the movies, it has to be true, right?
Offered a chance to participate in the trial of a robotic arm that would mean having surgery to implant sensors, Padilla was an eager volunteer.
They implanted electrodes inside my muscles. So the same muscles you use to move, to close your hand, left or right, thumb, it's the same ones I use to power this prosthesis. So electrodes are in the same muscles.
At the Alfred Mann Foundation in Los Angeles, scientists worked with military doctors to design the surgically implanted sensors. The tiny devices detect signals from the existing muscles in the amputated limb, transmit the information wirelessly to the arm's controller, where the signal is translated into commands for the robotic hand and arm to move.
It's slow, of course, it's not gonna be as fast as your hand, but as soon as I do it, it happens. So whatever your process is from your brain to your muscles, to your nerves and everything, however that works, it works.
Go this way. This life-changing technology not only gives Padilla more independence and freedom, it also brings him a step closer to the future he wants for his family and for future generations of wounded troops.
You know, the way I see it is we got to push technology. I mean, to me, it's like giving back, like serving again. Because even though you may call me a guinea pig or crash test dummy, whatever you want to call me, right? I don't care. It's fine. I'll be that. So that way, guys behind me in future wars could have something when they come back injured, something that's positive, something that will make their lives better.
I'm Hari Srinivasan. On the next News Hour, our Making Sense team looks at whether the shift of jobs from retail to e-tail is a boom or bust for those looking for work. That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
Sunny skies dominated the weather this afternoon with slightly warmer temperatures. Will the mild weather stick around? Erin Calandra has tonight's forecast.
Another gorgeous day here in San Diego. Taking a look at our satellite and radar, well, there is really nothing going on. Beautiful conditions out there, plenty of sunshine for everyone. Taking a larger look, it is dry here in the southwest. Very beautiful conditions for everyone. Hot in the deserts, and those monsoons are fewer and far between now. For tonight, 66 degrees for our overnight low with increasing clouds, of course. By lunchtime tomorrow, they're going to be breaking up, and we're going to have plenty of sunshine throughout the day. So for tonight in Oceanside, 60 degrees, Poway 62, in Ramona 57, Borrego Springs 74, and Mount Laguna 57 degrees for our overnight lows. Tomorrow it's going to be gorgeous here for pretty much everyone. Taking a look at some temperatures, Oceanside 76, Borrego Springs still hot, typical though for this time of year, 104, Mount Laguna 77, Alpine 85, and San Diego 76 degrees with plenty of sunshine throughout the day. Here we are looking at the coast for the next 5 days. We are holding strong at 76 degrees for our high temperature. Plenty of sunshine in the afternoon, a bit cloudy in the morning, very typical pattern here. Inland, we're in the 80s, 84 degrees pretty much all week with plenty of sunshine. In the mountains, very comfortable conditions. 77 on Friday, Saturday 78, and then Sunday a bit cooler, 75, 74 on Monday. It's going to stay nice and dry, very pleasant. And in the deserts, we're going to stay dry here as well. Temperatures in the triple digits all week long with plenty of sunshine. Make sure you're staying hydrated, not just you, but the kiddos and also the pets. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
This week, KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando says there's something old, something new, and something carnivorous at the movies.
The initial ads for The Hitman's Bodyguard spoofed to perfection the Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston 90s actioner The Bodyguard. They also raised the question, would this be a one-joke gag stretched too far? Ryan Reynolds plays a down-on-his-luck bodyguard forced to protect Samuel L. Jackson's hitman-turned-witness. But the playful chemistry of the two stars more than carries the film. The Hitman's Bodyguard is big dumb fun, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. So turn off your brain and fasten your seatbelts for a fun ride. Logan Lucky, from one-time indie darling Steven Soderbergh, should have been more fun. It returns Soderbergh to the heist genre of his Ocean's 11 films. But instead of slick con artists in swanky Las Vegas, we get hillbillies with a family curse in the heart of Trump's America, where all the actors have bad Southern accents. It feels like Soderbergh is slumming with this heist that relies less on smarts and more on chance. There are a few gem scenes, but not enough to leave you satisfied. But satisfaction is guaranteed with Niagara, screening Saturday and Sunday at Cinema Under the Stars. Marilyn Monroe is sex incarnate as the femme fatale in this rare color film noir. And there's no better way to experience this sultry tale of deceit and betrayal than outdoors on a hot summer night. And finally, on Friday, the San Diego Natural History Museum serves up the last of its interactive Sci-Fi Friday films with Roger Corman's original Little Shop of Horrors, featuring a very young Jack Nicholson. The Nat's Michael Wall explains what you'll get.
So we like to have a little bit of fun. It feels a little bit like pop-up videos from VH1 or Mystery Science Theater. And this week we'll have the Carnivorous Plant Society there as well, showing off their cool carnivorous plants. So we try to make it a fun-filled thematic evening centered around a sci-fi film.
Join me at the Nat tomorrow at 6 p.m. and satisfy your hunger for science facts and science fun. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Now here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Keeping hospitalized kids close to their loved ones is the mission of the Ronald McDonald House at Rady Children's, and the demand is so high they're opening a second one. And on Midday Edition, interfaith leaders gather in San Diego to speak out against racism and religious intolerance. That's tomorrow at noon on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.